Speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back.
Let me ask you something, listeners and viewers. Have you ever sat in your rig, finished a race, looked at your result and thought, what is going on? Have I actually got worse? Because that was me this week. I had a plan that I thought was very simple. I'm going to drop into the iRacing Rookie FF1600 Series at Summit Point Raceway. Reset, rebuild, regain control. Instead, my iRating took a hit, my safety rating started to develop a downward spiral, results inconsistent at best. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, a question started to creep in. Have I actually lost it? Not dramatically, not in a throw the wheel out of the window way, but quietly, subtly, that little voice. But here's the twist. At the same time, I was having some of the best racing I've had in months. So which one is it? Am I getting worse, or am I just seeing a different side of iRacing? That's what we're gonna unpack today. So let's get into it. When you drop into rookies as an experienced driver, you already carry some expectations, and they're quite dangerous. You expect cleaner overtakes because you're faster, easier race wins, and less pressure. But what I actually got, it was an environment that doesn't respect my or your expectations. Because rookies actually isn't any easier, as I found out this week. It's just different. It's more unpredictable. And here's the mental trap. When your expectations don't match reality, you don't question the environment. You question yourself. And I went through this countless times this week. I should be winning this race, I thought to myself. I shouldn't be getting caught up in all this action. And why am I struggling here? And just like that, my confidence, and maybe your confidence, could and did take a hit. So this is where that question came from. Had I actually lost it, and had I settled at a pace, racing in A-class in higher splits, and I couldn't actually race anymore? And this is where things get really interesting psychologically, because performance dips in iRacing don't always come from skill loss. They come from context shift. You've gone from structured racing, predictable drivers, and calculated risks to random braking points, erratic positioning, and emotion driving from others. Your usual tools don't work the same way, and that creates hesitation. You second-guess moves you'd normally make within a split second. You find yourself, and I did, braking earlier, hesitate on throttle, and stop trusting your instincts. And that's when it hits. I'm not driving like I normally do. And you know, that's because I wasn't. I had to adapt. And your brain interprets that as decline. and that's the start of the spiral. Let's strip this right back, listeners and viewers. When you race in chaos, your brain goes into defensive mode. It's no longer thinking about optimal racing lines, perfect exits, and lap time consistency. It's thinking, where is the danger? Who can I trust? And what's about to happen next? You're essentially driving in a constant state of alert, and that's exhausting, and I can definitely confirm that. And when the brain is overloaded, performance drops, not because you're worse, but because your mental bandwidth is maxed out. And it's like trying to solve a puzzle while someone keeps shaking the table. So this week taught me something really important. There are two types of performance. One, control performance, where your skills can shine, and two, adaptive performance, where your survival instincts shine. In higher splits, you live in control performance. However, in rookies, you live in adaptive performance, and if you judge yourself using the wrong lens, you'll always feel like you're underperforming. And actually, you're not. You're just playing a different game. Now, let's talk about the emotional baggage between races, because this is where things quietly unravel. You get taken out, you're feeling frustrated. You jump straight into the next race and you tell yourself fresh start. But actually, it's not. You're behind the scenes carrying frustration, tension, and that little voice that says, I need to get it back. And this changes how you drive. You try, or you don't even try, it just happens to force moves. You defend that little bit harder, and you trust less. And before you know it, you're no longer reacting to the race, you're reacting to the previous one, and that's where consistency disappears. This week forced me to develop something we don't talk about enough. The reset. Between races, between corners, and between incidents. A proper reset looks like this. You need to acknowledge what has just happened and accept it quickly. Let it go completely. And you know that's not easy, but it is powerful. I can remember after Tuesday night going downstairs to speak to my wife, and I had got that pent up frustration. I could feel it in my shoulders. I had lost about 130 iRating and my SR was down to 1.2. So I was hanging on to A class with a fine thread. But this was all because I didn't reset. You compound the mistakes, which makes them even more. The best drivers, what do? They don't avoid chaos, they recover from it faster. So we're going to have a quick mention from the sponsor of today's podcast, Outlap, and we'll be right back. We're having a quick pause here to mention our sponsor, Outlap, who are supporting the podcast. Outlap is built around the side of sim racing we don't talk about enough. The focus, the preparation, and mental work that happens long before the race actually starts. It's not about hype or loud designs, it's about process, patience, and showing up ready. whether that's in the rig or stepping away from it. If that side of sim racing resonates with you, you'll find Outlap quietly ticking along in the background. I want to thank Outlap again for sponsoring the podcast, and the link to their sim racing apparel store is in the show notes. Just want to thank Outlap again for sponsoring the podcast. If anybody wants to go and look at their sim racing apparel, the link is in the show notes below. Midway through the week, something changed. I stopped chasing results and started reading the race, watching drivers more closely, predicting mistakes, and letting chaos unfold instead of getting caught up in it. And suddenly things started to improve. Not dramatically, but consistently. I had less incidents per race, better finishers, and actually felt a lot more in control of what was going off. Not of the race, but of myself. Looking back now, this week didn't cost me anything. It gave me stuff though that I can use for the following weeks on iRacing. It gave me better awareness, stronger emotional control, sharper instincts, and more patience. Things that don't show up in iRating immediately, but absolutely show up later. This was training, just disguised as frustration. Now, we're going to be back in a minute and we're going to hear from this week's iRacing Agony Uncle. So don't go away. This week's Agony Uncle received a letter from another listener with another wonderful question. What third-party asset should I be using to help me improve on iRacing? And we're going to go a little bit deeper on this subject because tools, third-party tools, can either overwhelm you or transform you. We're going to start with what you can see. So RaceLab apps, and I use them and the paid version as well. They give you relative timing, fuel standings, and they actually help you understand the race picture and what's going off around you and on the track. And it reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is what creates panic. Then we're going to move a little bit to one of our other sensors, what you can hear. Now, I also use this from time to time, called the Digital Race Engineer or DRE, and it's huge mentally because instead of thinking what's the gap and do I have enough fuel, you basically ask Dre or DRE and you're told, and that frees up your brain for driving. Now what about a third layer of improvement? So after the race we all should be analysing. So what can we use to analyse? Garage 61 and VRS. And this is where growth actually happens. not during the race, but after it, as you assess what you did well and where you need to improve. So, the final thought for this great question is tools don't actually replace skill. They support the clarity, and clarity builds confidence to give you an opportunity to make the right choices instead of the wrong ones. Now personally, I know when I haven't got Race Labs up and running, if it's down or for some reason it just won't load and I haven't had time to download it again, I feel totally exposed and lost with what is going on in and around me. So that's another wonderful, great question from a listener. So please keep sending them into the show's email. And I hope you're enjoying this section of the podcast. Give me some feedback because I keep doing it and I'm not sure if you like it or not. So that'll be good to hear as well. Final closing then to bring it all to a close. Did I lose it this week? Well, the answer is clearly no. I just stepped into a new environment that tested a different part of my skill set. And maybe that's the lesson to learn for myself and maybe some of you, the listeners and viewers. Because iRacing isn't just about speed. It's about adaptation, awareness, emotional control, and sometimes you need a chaotic week to remind me and you of that. If you've ever had a week where nothing made sense, where results didn't reflect how you felt, when you question your own ability, you're clearly not alone, because I've done it this week. You're not evolving on the lone road. And on the lone road, that's exactly what we're here to do. Well, that's the end of another week's podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. Anybody with any requests of any topics you would like us to look at, please let us know using the email that's in the show notes below. Final thought. I've enjoyed it this week. It's been a challenge, and I haven't had a really good challenge with newer iRacers for a long while. So go and give it a go yourselves. You might find some new friends and some enjoyable racing. Until then, happy iRacing. I'll see you on the grid soon. Don't forget to say hello. See you next episode. Hear me now, we're racing circles, got a hustle made a vow, chasing victory, it's all or nothing on the track, speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back, whatever it takes.